dagger we're going to put in Islam is, they have a 3-letter word spelled RHM, which is Ruhum. And Ruhum in Islam means womb. And they got a prayer that they do. And I don't speak Arabic, so you ain't going to get it fluent. But they ask to seek mercy within the Ruhum of Allah. And Ruhum means womb. So if Allah is a man, why would you be asking to seek refuge within the womb of Allah? And it's because it was Allah first, before conquestors came over there and played you. So, today if you're a religious person, you've been tricked. And I'm not here to play with you about that. I'm not here to sugarcoat it, because it's only so long that you can allow something to go on before you get tired. And it's like, religion was written by Masons to destroy the matriarch. And all around the world, the black woman was a God figure. And even when we go to Islam, okay, because I can crush Christianity, but I'm going to do that in the lecture on Saturday. We're going to go to Islam right now. When you go to any Muslim, they tell you they worship Allah. But ask them how old the word Allah is. Because before it was Allah, it was Allat, A-L-L-A-T. And then they tell you that the Egyptian deities, all the female deities, have T's at the end of their name to denote their feminine nature. For example, you got Mayat, Sekhmet. I can go all the way down the list. So in the Middle East over there, which is actually still a part of Africa, okay, not even really the Middle East, you're still in Africa. But outside of that, they worship Allat, which was a female fertility goddess. And then what the Caucasian did was he said, okay, after he created Christianity at the Council of Ephesus, because it wasn't at the Council of Nicaea, Constantine got it started, but it was Christianity was created during 5th century AD at the Council of Ephesus. And this is where you get the, book in the Bible, Ephesians or Ephesians, however you pronounce it. And God considers the Ephesians or the Ephesian people holy. That's because that's where the religion was created. But outside of that, coming back to Islam, what happened was the Pope and all of these Roman deities couldn't conquest the Middle East because they couldn't get in because they didn't speak the language. So we have to understand how language is like a force field. A person can't even come into your ideology unless they can understand you. So the Caucasian didn't conquest what we consider the Middle East today through the use of Christianity. So what he did was he had a prisoner of war that you would call Muhammad. And Muhammad was actually trained by Admiral Bey. So don't get that twisted. Muhammad was not given no, understanding from God. The Quran means written word, and it's historically documented that Muhammad was illiterate. Okay, so how he gonna write something that he can't even write? Like, why would God give? That's like God would give a blind man the opportunity to get on a stand in court and be a witness at a crime. He was blind. So with that being said, Muhammad was trained underneath the Roman Catholics at that time, and since he spoke the Middle Eastern language, they used him as a mule to convert Christianity into Islam and to take it over there to his people forcefully. And in exchange for that, they gave him what they always give people, women, fame, military, soldiers, all of that bull crap. And this is why Muhammad went over there, and everybody and this is in Muhammad's history, everybody was converted to Islam under the sword. So now you have to ask yourself, why would you have to convert your own people to something forcefully if you already was amongst them? Why wouldn't they trust you? Okay, that's because they didn't know you. Okay, and you didn't grow up amongst them. So when we talk about Christianity and Islam being connected, the people who created Christianity created Islam, and this is why all of the stories are the same. All of the prophets are the same. Muslims believe in Jesus too. I believe they call him Ibis. So with that being said, we have to understand that all religion was created by the same entity, which is a non-African entity whose means at the time, and still this time, was conquest. So what they did was they just reconverted the, Jesus Christ ideology to the Arabic language, called it Islam, and gave it to you. That.
In peace. I hope you and yours are doing well today, wherever you might be watching this from. Now, the title for the Masonic education video that I wanted to do for the month of May is the Sufi and Masonic comparison of the aspects of the pillars and what they exemplify, and the Masonic tracing board. So on the left-hand side, we see the Holy Kaaba in the east, the holy city of Mecca in the east, where all Muslims, as part of the one of the 5 main pillars of Islam, is pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca, if you are physically and financially capable to do so. What do we see as the Kaaba represented? The perfect ashlar stone representing the perfect temple of God, which God in the Quran had instructed Abraham that I have given you the tools, now build the house of God. And this was constructed, the Kaaba. And inside of the Kaaba, you have the 3 pillars and you have the altar. And what are the Muslims doing in their pilgrimage? They're doing their own rite of circumambulation, which even in Freemasonry, in the initiatic process, one goes through. And all of them are on the level, whether they're CEOs, janitors, millionaires, cashiers. Everyone's wearing the white cloth of innocence, equivalent to the innocence of the lambskin of a master mason's apron. And they're all meeting on the level, and they're all participating in this initiatic experience, walking around it 7 times, 7 being the letter G, the 7th letter, exemplifying and honoring God. And this is what also changed the heart and mind of Malcolm X when he was there, as he saw that it was no racism. Everyone was meeting his brothers on the level and honoring God and honoring self and each other. On the right-hand side, we see the Masonic tracing board, of course, with the same 3 pillars, strength, wisdom, and beauty of King Solomon's temple, but also that exemplifies the pillars in the heavens, the pillars here in the earth, and the pillars within ourself, of us honoring that temple within. And also there's a hadith from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that 2 out of the 3 signs of God are the sun and the moon. What do we see here on the Masonic tracing board? You have the sun, Al-Shams, known in Arabic. Even in the Quran, there's a chapter dedicated. And also you have the moon. And this is also, even if you look at the D-Molay symbol, they use the crescent moon with the star. And you have the 3rd symbol, which is the eye of God, in Arabic known as Al-Basir, one of the 99 names of Allah, that Allah is always watching you. And you must always exemplify yourself to the highest characters, moral virtue. Because what is the true Masonic individual? One who knows in his heart and practices it the core principles of brotherly love, relief, truth, charity, and benevolence, not only to himself but his fellow beings around him. And that is exactly what we're seeing, the principles of Islam, where we see all of us, each other, as brothers, as Prophet Muhammad has said, that a Muslim is like one body. The entire Muslim world, the 1.5 billion and growing. So if one body part hurts, that means that it affects the whole body. So same thing in Freemasonry, we're one collective brotherhood. And, one person's issue is another brother's issue. And whoever's watching or listening to this, yourself and all beings are a manifestation of that one true reality.
They look at black people and know who we are.
Hey, my friend, thank you for that question.
They don't teach you Islam. It's a religion that white people don't teach the black man. They know it is a whole world. It's not an organization, it's a world. But they don't teach you, they commercialize on it.
Hiram was a master architect, but he got hit in the head. You are a master builder, but you got hit in the head, and they took you on a westerly course.
Well,
The Masonic connection between the Templars and Muslims by past Master McHenry. The Freemasonic connection between the Knight Templars and the Muslims is a fascinating topic that has intrigued many historians and researchers. There are different theories and opinions about the nature and extent of this connection, but no definitive proof or consensus. Here are some of the main points that have been suggested by various sources. The Knight Templars were a military and religious order that was founded in the 12th century to protect Christian pilgrims in the Holy Land. They became immensely powerful and wealthy, but also faced many enemies and accusations, especially from the King of France and the Pope, who eventually disbanded and persecuted them in the early 14th century. The Knight Templars had frequent contact and conflict with the Muslims, who were also known as Saracens or Moors, in the Middle East and North Africa. Some sources claim that the Templars learned from the Muslim culture, science, philosophy, and mysticism, and adopted some of their symbols and rituals too. Others suggest that the Templars were secretly allied with the Muslims, or even converted to Islam, as part of their strategy to survive and expand their influence. 34. The Freemasons are a fraternal and esoteric society that traces its origins to the medieval guilds of stonemasons. They have various degrees and orders within their structure, one of which is the Knights Templar, which is open only to Christian Masons. 1. Some Masonic writers have claimed that there is a direct link between the original Knight Templars and the modern Freemasons, based on historical evidence or symbolic interpretation. 3. The Freemasons have also been influenced by other sources of Islamic mysticism, such as the Sufis, who are known for their poetry, music, and spiritual practices. Some Masonic symbols, such as the star and crescent, or the double-headed eagle, had been traced to ancient Egypt and Phoenicia, which were later conquered by the Muslims. 4. Some Masonic lodges have also established friendly relations with Muslim groups, such as the Shriners, who wear a red fez as a sign of respect for the Moorish culture. 4. These are some of the main aspects of the Freemasonic connection between the Knight Templars and the Muslims. However, there is still much debate and speculation about this topic, and more research is needed to verify or refute these claims. I hope you found this information interesting and
White people were introduced to masonry by the Moors of Spain. That's why how you get the Islamic origin of that. And the science that they gave to them, because the Moors in Spain, when they ruled for 700 years, understood that their prophecy, that they would fall one day. You understand? By that, they understood that they had to put the masonry in the European hands and give him something to lift himself up so he won't be that much barbarous with the kids.
So, as a 33...
You have heard what it is said.
Do the Shriners take their oath on a Quran? And are they a secret Muslim Islamic body? Let's talk about it. In 1870, a group of 13 Masons would regularly meet at the Knickerbocker Cottage in New York City. Often discussion turned into forming a new fraternity for Masons based on the tenets of Freemasonry, but with the added element of fun and fellowship. Dr. Walter Fleming and Billy Florence. But this emblem here, it kind of looks like the Islamic crescent moon, doesn't it? It actually doesn't look like it at all. And if you go to shrinerinternational.org, you can find all the information here. The scimitar stands for the backbone of the fraternity. Its members.
Let's be clear. When you see this, 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 when you see the checkerboards on the floor, when you see the skull and bones, when you see the signs and symbolism, when you slow down the music, Jay-Z new video with Nas and DJ Khaled, it's a scene where it's checkerboards. These are all occult, Satanist, symbolic symbols. So what I'm saying is, and I'm gonna tell you why and me personally, I've been in music for a minute, had deals and all that, bro. I don't give a fuck about this shit. But what I know, for me, I study so I know when I see it, so I know what to avoid. Because niggas can be trying to sacrifice your ass and you're not studying. God told us to read and be knowledgeable. So when I see Jay-Z go, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? You're not no gang member. You got checkerboard floors in your shit. You got skull and bones. What does this mean? Because it's not just there. You look at Cardi B's album cover, it's checkerboard. You look at Dream Doll, now she's the checkerboard too. Like, I'm not, y'all niggas, let me tell you something. These motherfuckers sell their soul, they practice witchcraft.
What does it mean though?
What it means, what it means.
What does the checkerboard mean?
It means mind control. So you got classical conditioning, you got operational conditioning. So what they do is they use programming. So
MK Ultra?
Yeah, but it's to push an agenda.
Just
listen to point 5.
Take what was ours, switch up the design by cutting off the capstone to the pyramid, which is our consciousness. Removed it from the temple. The crescent moon and star took off Islam. They put the Roman numerals down there. That right there in Roman numerals used to be our self-law and master, internal self-law and management. You put the Roman numerals together, mathematically, it spells out 1774. Novus Order Seclorum, New World Order. This is why the Prophet Noble Joe Ali said, Go back to that state of mind of your ancient foremothers and forefathers. Ab antiqua. These ain't my words. Black Slog Dictionary, 4th edition. Ab antiqua. From old times? From ancient time? So hold up. Wait a minute. So ab antiqua means from ancient times. From old times.
What does is Freemasonry?
Absolutely.
KSI breaking down the Masons.
Ils seront obligés de rentrer dans la guerre, les Américains. Ils seront obligés d'être tirés dans cette guerre. Et Biden, c'est pas lui qui parle.
C'est qui parle alors?
Il a été remplacé.
Pardon?
Il est remplacé. Toi, c'est Ben Ali.
Oui, il est remplacé par un clone.
Oui.
Ok. حرمت عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل لغير
Le
الله به.
5e amendement doit obliger les Américains à rentrer dans cette guerre qu'on veut mondiale.
D'accord, j'ai compris. حرمت عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير.
Je vais mourir.
Tu vas mourir?
Oui, je vais mourir. Je veux mourir, je te dis.
Ah, tu veux mourir?
Oui.
Attends, on va t'arranger ça sans problème. وإذا وقع القول عليهم أخرجنا لهم دابة من الأرض تكلمهم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا يقول له كن فيكون. إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا يقول له كن فيكون. إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا يقول له كن فيكون. حرمت عليكم سبوا لي بو. حرمت عليكم الله.
I do believe in God because demons are real. There's genuine evil in this world. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Deity.
And there's always an equal and opposite force. If demons are real, then God must be real.
When God becomes your ally, then no mortal man is worth fear or even respect. I will destroy any mortal man on the planet. I fear one person, and that is God alone.
I do believe in God.
Sometimes people think that the crescent and star are the symbol of the Islamic religion. But in fact, the crescent is not the defining symbol of Islam in the way that the cross is for Christianity. The crescent, in fact, was not used as a symbol for the religion until the 15th century. It denoted the religion of Islam on a sort of reliable and definitive basis only following the Ottoman conquest of Constantinople in 1453. Because the symbol of the city of Constantinople is the crescent. And the reason for that is that it has Marian associations. The Cathedral Church of Constantinople, Hagia Sophia, Holy Wisdom, is dedicated to the Blessed Virgin. And in Christian iconography, the crescent is often associated with the Virgin because she is Queen of Heaven. So blue is her colour, there are stars, and she stands sometimes on a crescent moon. So the Ottoman Turks adopted the symbol of the city of Constantinople, which was now their capital, as the emblem of their state. Sometimes people think that the crescent and star are the symbol of the Islamic religion. But in fact, the crescent
was a pre-Islamic pagan idol. The question you must ask yourself is, what other pre-Islamic pagan acts or rituals have been incorporated into your deen, your way of life? Another question you may ask yourself is, how did these pagan rituals become incorporated into sectarian Islam? Allah says, Surah 6, Ayah 66, your people have rejected this even though it is the truth.
Okay, let's check what's on TikTok today.
As a Christian, word Allah is the
Hubal, the pagan moon god from ancient Arab. Bye.
I did a paper on Islam that you can download off our website at British of Muhammad's clan.
Hubal adalah
I sure can. Glad you asked. Sometime in the 1800s, this book ended up getting published. And in this book, it highlights the notion that the Roman Catholic Church copied from other pagan religions. Of course, It covers Islam and the history of Islam and this whole idea that the Roman Catholic Church created Islam and Allah is the moon god Hubal. Fast forward many years later and you had this. A graphic novel put out by a retired Navy man by the name of Jack Chick, who footnotes that book and uses it extensively in his material for publishing this graphic novel. Me, I have a completely different idea of where I think Alla came from. If you'd like more information about this,
it's the 5th century AD, and the lonely sand-swept deserts of Arabia have not yet been introduced to the religion of Islam. That would come 100 years later. No, the Arab world was much different before the Prophet Muhammad was ever even first mentioned. Jews, Christians, polytheists, Zoroastrians, multiple different religious groups existed at the same time as these polytheists. This is really important to understand. I want you guys to try and think deeply about this. Arabian polytheism, which was the dominant practice amidst all the others, had a history locked deep with an ancient city in the region we know today as Mecca. This foundational city, which is still revered today, it is the primary spiritual center of all the surrounding regions with their pagan worship practices. The cube, or the ancient house which is at the heart of the city, was actually used to house all of the local gods. 360 of them to be exact, and they would honor these gods by encircling the shrine in a lunar-like procession. This practice would later be taken by Islam, which is really quite interesting if you think about it. Islam, meaning submission to God. But my question to you is, which God? Manat, Dushar. These are but a few of the names of the various idol gods worshipped in the Black Cube, which would have been placed adorning the inside of the shrine and along the outer rim of the cube for their ritualistic purposes. Now, each Lunar New Year, the various warring tribal groups would lay down their arms and make the lengthy pilgrimage to the shrine, where they would encircle it, offering sacrifices and penances to their favorite gods, which some scholars say represent the 365 days of the year. Encirclement, discretion, pilgrimage. I think you guys are starting to get the picture of what I'm trying to paint. But even with all this context, the mystery starts to get even deeper when you actually look into the history of the gods worshipped in the Black Cube. There really is only one singular deity that stands out in particular amidst all the rest, and his name is the ancient god Hubal. Hubal is a very interesting character indeed, because he is considered by most scholars to actually be the chief god of the Kaaba at the time. Some would even argue that the Kaaba was fully dedicated to Hubal himself. You can see more images of this god found right here with the same black stone that is venerated today in modern Mecca. But here is where it really starts to take a dark turn for the worst. Because when you actually look at the research, and believe me, I did, almost all scholars generally conclude that Hubal was an imported deity from the region of Syria, or the land of the Nabateans. Hubal was at once the presiding god in the temple, and the principal deity of the Koreshites, who were its guardian. The preeminence of this idol was evinced by the fact that before it, the casting of lots with arrows took place. This scholar says it was probably introduced when the sanctuary of the Koresh tribe was converted into the pantheon of the whole of Arabia. The name Hubal remains a mystery. The opinion that it is synonymous with the Babylonian and Syrian Baal, or Bel, is supported by the testimony of Arab authorities, according to whom Hubal was originally imported from Syria. Syria, the pinnacle of ancient Baal worship. This city sets up the foundation of many long-dead empires, It is considered to be one of the most celebrated ancient sanctuaries in the world, built upon by both Greeks and Romans. The Phoenicians being its originators, these were men and women who believed in the Canaanite pantheon, took Baal as the chief astronomical deity. Could it be any coincidence that scholars agree Hubal, the ancient lunar deity of the Kaaba, has a past connecting it to Baal? There is a story in the Gospel of Mark of these Pharisees coming to Jesus and saying he is casting out devils by the power of Satan. This is how he responds. He is possessed by Beelzebub. By the ruler of demons he cast out demons. So he called them and spoke to them in parables. How can Satan cast out Satan? We see right here that Jesus is connecting the prince of demons himself to Baal, which means there's only one connection we can make. Baal is Satan. This is where we get to put all the puzzle pieces together, and believe me, they fit quite perfectly. Because Hubal, having a direct tie to the pagan god Baal of the Canaanites, was not only considered the chief god of the Kaaba at the time, but Hubal was actually worshipped as Allah by the forefathers of Muhammad. Ibn Kathir, one of Islam's most renowned historians, speaks of a certain forefather of Muhammad digging a well in a region called Zamzam. This was probably just a neighboring region outside the province of Mecca itself. According to the story, this sparked outrage among the neighboring Qurayshi tribe, which remember were the protectors of Hubal and the Black Cube, who ultimately viewed this act as a total provocation of their land and demanded retribution. Hearing all of this, understandably, Muhammad's tribal ancestor becomes totally stressed out by the situation, and he vows to sacrifice his 10 sons to God or Allah at the Kaaba in order to pay the blood price. It is claimed that when Ibn al-Muttalib received such opposition from Quraysh over the digging of Zamzam, he vowed that if 10 sons were born to him, who grew up and protected him, he would sacrifice one of them for Allah at the Kaaba. Allah at the Kaaba can only have meant one thing to the forefather of Muhammad this time, who sought to abate this god's anger through the death of one of his sons. And we know that he could only be speaking of one specific deity himself. Baal.
Because they know that they don't want to get slayed, and they know people are righteous, and they know.
I like this word more, less and less.
I'm getting rich, fuck a deal. Came along if you sharing a meal. It's easy to see who's real. Why ain't no one there to help? I've been going through it by myself. When the devil tried to bring me down, really came up from the ground. Blue strips and the browns, it's in the stash. Bring my homie. I'm getting rich, fuck a deal. Came along if you sharing a meal.
Freelancer, free agents. We faster, big contracts, big contractors.
See, it's everybody's job to know history. It's everybody's job to understand that history was erased, changed, and became missing over time. So as you can see here, the Freemasonic Lodge was traditionally an institution in which European males were able to learn and participate in aspects of Moorish high culture. And you hear a lot of, erasure of Native American Indians culture. And as you can see, the Native American Indian Freemasonry, which is interesting. And like I said, this is not for erasure at all. This is just for a complete understanding that there is history missing. And this is to add to history, not to erase history, to add to history. As we can see, as we can see, as we can see, as we can see, as we can see. But that's all I have.
I am Brett Trismegistus, also known as Brett Godson. Some of you may know me as B-God. I am a 32nd degree and Holy Royal Arch Mason, a tried and true student and scholar of the ancient mysteries and ancient Freemasonry, which are one and the same. Some of you may know this as more science. Through my diligent studies of the world religions and secret societies, there is no better teaching for the Asiatics in America than the divine wisdom of the Honorable Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and the Moore Science Temple of America.
You get to a certain level in the Masons that you're qualified to go into the Shriners, which I guess is really the height of the whole thing. And then you talked about the distinctive headgear that they wear, the fez, and which we've seen all these at circuses, at parades. They come down the street on their motorcycles wearing their fez. Tell us, first of all, what is the Shriners, and what is the significance of that fez?
Well, you'll see the men in the shrine parades and the shrine circus wearing their red fez. In order to be a Shriner, you have to reach the highest degrees of Freemasonry, either the 32nd degree of the Scottish Rite or 13th degree of the York Rite, and then you're allowed to go into the shrine. And sadly, many Christians have gone into this, which is hard to understand, because in order to be a Shriner, in the initiation, every Shriner takes a blood oath of allegiance to Allah as his God and Muhammad as his prophet.
Now, are you kidding me?
No. And in light of 9/11, you got to wonder, how can any Christian take a blood oath of allegiance when God absolutely forbids that in the Ten Commandments?
And yet they're not even allowed to pray in the name of Jesus at the lodge, are they?
No. But you swear allegiance that Allah is your God, Muhammad is your prophet. You are then given this red fez with the Islamic sword and crescent encrusted in jewels on the front of it. And you'll see men wearing this. And people say, well, why do they wear the red fez? It is because if you study history, during the 7th and 8th century, as the Muslims swept across North Africa, they came to Fez, Morocco. And in Fez, Morocco, there was a large community of Christians. And Muhammad had ordered the slaughter of all the infidels, meaning Christians, who would not bow down to Allah and Muhammad as the prophet. And the Muslims went in with the Islamic sword, and there in Fez slaughtered thousands of Christians. And then they took their Fez hats, and they dipped it in the blood of Christians, glorying in the defeat of Christianity. And that's why the fezes are red, representing the blood of Christians defeated by the Islamic sword, which they have encrusted in jewels on the front. And there are Christians who walk around wearing this hat, and Dave, to be honest, it's an abomination in the eyes of God.
Moors brought in this knowledge into Europe. Africans brought this knowledge into Europe. And in bringing this knowledge into Europe,